Elliot, how's it going? Nice to see the Bucks have tied it up 2-2.
Yeah, making it interesting for home fans and for general basketball fans all at the same time.
Absolutely.
So this week, the federal bank regulators, including the OCC, issued a notice asking for comment on proposed risk management guidance for third-party relationships. Did you see that?
I did. Pretty lengthy. Obviously, it's a combination of previously issued guidance and statements. So the agencies are sort of banding together on this. So a lot to cull through. But I think the point we want to make during our conversation is it's open for comment. It's a 60-day comment period, and I think virtually any of our clients that we work with third parties. Many do, even smaller institutions. So it becomes pretty important to determine, what examiners are going to be looking for. So I think it's really essential, as it always is, but to file comments and to offer your operational and other thoughts on something as important as this.
Agreed. As you mentioned, there is existing guidance from OCC, FRB, and the FDIC. FDIC's is the oldest. It came out in 2009. The Fed and OCC both issued things in 2013, and I think it was May of 2020, the OCC issued some FAQ. And in the release, they mentioned that they're going to the interagency guidance will be built on the current OCC guidance and FAQ, which makes sense. You got to pick something to start.
Right.
I did notice, obviously third-party relationships has become a more important. This concept's been around for a long time. It used to focus almost exclusively on IT-related things, core processing and telecommunications infrastructure. Now it applies to lots of different things, and there are some key provisions that will deal with the financial crimes compliance.
Right. And as you say, it's not just, we used to call it vendor management years ago.
Right.
And obviously that's a broad-based term. So there's a couple of things that I think are worth calling out. One is the OCC and the other agencies made similar comments that if you fail to have a risk management process for third parties, that's commensurate with your risk levels, obviously going back to the whole notion of your risk levels, it could be an unsafe and unsound practice. So they say in the notice that these are some of the things that examiners typically look at, right? They want to see whether you have the ability to manage the relationship. So to me, that means you don't defer everything to either the vendor or your generic third party that's your partners, number one. That you review the plans for remediation. So when things are discovered by either the third party or internal, you get, again, pretty common sense, have a remediation plan. And then, to deal with issues such as when you get deficiencies that are identified by your third parties or identified by supervisory findings, obviously from the examiners, MRAs, MRIAs, that sort of stuff. What's your response to that? And then the thing that sort of jumped out at me, besides all of these things, is sort of the last section on what examiners do. And it says the following. It says, look, the examinations are going to evaluate safety and soundness, operational and financial viability of the third party. That makes sense. Their ability, that third party's ability to fulfill its contractual obligations and, apply the laws and regs. And that those laws and regs would include consumer protection, and then our world, BSA, AML, and OFAC laws and regs. And the thing that I would highlight is they say, given all of that, all the agencies may pursue appropriate corrective measures, including enforcement actions to address violations of law or regs, not just by the banking organization, but potentially by the third party. And I know that's an area that I don't think we've seen a lot of that, but if that's going to be a focus and if maybe potentially a priority, that becomes even more important for both sides, right? The third party and the banking organization to get its act together from day one.
Absolutely. And there has been some history of that in the core processing area. where they are examined by federal bank regulators, and there have been enforcement actions of varying types and that kind of thing. And so, but I think that when this new guidance is issued, it will renew everybody's focus on it, and including the examiners. And so we may see some examinations of service providers that haven't been used to being examined in the past. And if you haven't ever been examined before, it takes some prep. John, I think you had some responsibility for that in the private sector, as I recall.
Right. Yeah. And the last thing, as you're filing the comments, understand that with the OCC's content, they're asking you to look at their previously issued FAQs and see whether any of those should be included in the guidance. So take a look at that. That's an appendix to the proposal. And the topics in the FAQs is a whole series of them, but it's things like bank management's responsibility regarding third-party subcontractors,
Yep.
risk management when the bank has limited negotiating power, that sort of thing. So a lot to chew on there, and we'll certainly follow it closely going forward. And as we always say, hopefully you'll subscribe to our weekly This Week in AML. Get it on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, John, have a great rest of the week, and I will talk to you next week.
Take care, Elliot. Go
Yep.
Bucks.
Bye-bye.